Inconceivable. 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 Inconceivable.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hope you guys are good.
We're fan-freaking-tastic over here.
Yay.
That's fake enthusiasm. The
No, we're
world
good.
is still in chaos.
But we're good. We're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
You good? Let's all
I'm
be
good.
good.
I'm good.
Let's all be good together. Let's grab
So-
like a bucket of good
And just pour.
Let's all
It'll be like-
on everyone.
It'll be like that giant bucket they have at water parks that slowly fills
Yes.
up, and then you just see it going over, and you're like, okay, everyone, get underneath, and just dumps on everybody.
I used to love that as a kid, and when I say as a kid, I mean like 2 weeks ago. So
You're hilarious.
It's pretty awesome.
Okay, so we don't usually do a ton of housekeeping at the beginning of the episodes, but at the time we're recording this episode, I've joined a really supportive Twitter group for podcasters.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's only fair to every episode give like a brief little shout out to a podcast that we're listening to. And this is one we've both listened to. So I want to give a shout out this week to Let's Not Meet, because
It's freaky.
it's creepy, and we actually took a drive to go camping a little while ago, and we listened to the episode called Blueberry in the car, and that was a scary episode.
It's one of those, like, what we talk about here is kind of like a situation where it's like, this could be possible, this might, be a supernatural, or might have some more fictitious elements to it. But that podcast is like, listen, this isn't really supernatural usually, at least from the ones I've seen. It's more like people are freaking
people being
nuts. They're terrifying.
It makes us fear the human race.
We are the scariest creatures
thing in our world.
Yeah, like even if you told me like tomorrow ghosts are real, vampires, werewolves, humans are still the scariest.
Yeah, you'd be like, no, I'm worried about the freaks, thanks.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun of that podcast. So
yeah, anyways, shout out to Let's Not Meet. Go check them out if you haven't. They're much more popular than us, so you've probably already, but all the same.
A drop of water is in the ocean still helps.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know
just
either,
kinda
but
over. That's
anyways.
what we're settling on. Anyways, Inconceivable.
Yay! Episode 7.
So are we on 7 already?
Yes, we are.
That is a big number.
That's a big number.
Big number. It's my lucky number.
That's my lucky number.
I know, I
Excuse
stole
you.
it. I'm a number thief.
I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to try you out after this. So, this week, because we did the UFO thing last week, now we're doing a more down-to-earth thing. So, we are now on another story of something that actually is...
So our cat decided to run from the upstairs, it sounds like. Barrel
The
down
third
the
floor.
stair, the third floor, barrel down the stairs onto
the main floor.
The main floor.
And then all the way down here to the basement where we are.
Yeah, like
Wow.
just
as soon as I heard it, I stopped talking because I was like, we're just going to cut that out. But now I might listen to it, and if it's funny, I'll just keep it.
it sounded like she was running from something. She gets down, looks at us, stops.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
I was like, hey, I was looking for you guys. Okay, bye.
Okay.
And back to go. Alright, on to the story.
On to this story. So, as I was saying, this is a more down-to-earth one because this one is actually recorded and it is, pretty much accepted that this happened because there were all these witnesses and people who wrote articles about it and stuff for the news.
Okay.
And it's been talked about on other shows like Weird or What and stuff like that.
All right.
So, have you heard of Kevin, Stephen, and Penny Brown?
No.
Yay! I didn't expect you did, but I just thought I'd ask. So, I'm glad this doesn't sound familiar. This is a very fun story. Because it actually happened, but it's very inconceivable. I love it.
Alrighty. I'm probably still gonna doubt it. I'm gonna be...
No, you won't. You're gonna love this one.
Alright.
Okay, 1999. So, we have Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
He is an average 11-year-old guy. Lancaster, New York. And he's, at this point, the bat boy for his younger brother's Little League baseball team.
Okay.
Yeah, so 11 years old.
I'm not entirely sure
I can talk.
what a bat boy does.
He's like I think he's helping out. So he's kind of in the... Is it the dugout?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's kind of in that area. And he's, I guess, helping the players who are up next to bat.
Okay, it's
who are kind of doing practice swings.
Yeah, it's kind of like a leadership.
Yes, it's a leadership role of some kind.
Thing. Just keep going. Ignore the cats.
I'm so sorry. Our cats chose this very moment to be super hyper. And we even moved downstairs to avoid the noise of the fridge that I've noticed in other episodes. We're trying real hard here. Anyways, so another player on his brother's team is warming up, practicing his swings, like you usually see them doing. And then he accidentally hits Kevin in the chest with the bat on a backswing.
Nice.
So, as you can hear from Scoff's noise and probably the cringe that you guys just had on your faces, this was not a good thing.
That would hurt. I've never been hit by a baseball bat. I have been hit with wooden stick type things when I did martial arts.
Oh yeah, those
we'd have
things.
Joes or bokens, and I've been smacked with those a couple times, and it wouldn't have been as hard as someone like doing a practice swing and whipping it back.
Yeah. So needless to say, he's 11 and getting hit in the chest with a bat is in general not a good thing. This was quite not a good thing. He says when he looks back, all I remember, quote.
Okay.
All I remember is that I dropped the bat off and all of a sudden just got hit in the chest with something and I turned around and passed out.
Yeah, I mean, if the pain is enough, yeah.
And like the shock of it, and
you would
be winded because it was in his chest, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably like the air just went whoosh, and yeah, so
He's
not
just
good.
Not having a good day.
So this is not good, but there is a stroke of luck. Very, very fortunate stroke of luck. A nurse named Penny Brown was supposed to be at work that night. But she was given the day off last minute so that she could watch her son's baseball game.
So she's a slacker.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Calling a nurse a slacker.
I'm kidding.
He's gonna get so many hate tweets now.
I get so many hate tweets. I'm actually supposed to be at work today, too.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're not. It's a holiday.
It's a holiday for us. I was supposed to be at work yesterday and I took the day off.
Yeah.
For stuff, but...
That's because...
I'm what you call
sadness.
a hypocrite. Not to be confused with a hippogriff or a Hufflepuff. All very different things.
Oh my god, you're like the dorkiest dork I've ever heard. Can we get on with the story?
Yeah, sure. Okay, nurse is there.
Nurses, don't hate on Scoff just because he made that comment.
I'm projecting my own hatred of myself. Anyways, Continue.
This nurse is a lovely lady. She sees what's happening, she rushes from the bleachers onto the field, and she quickly determines that Kevin's heart had completely stopped.
You said he was 11?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's trauma. It's not like a standard kind of... Like, when you get older, your arteries start to clog kind of thing, can give you a heart attack.
This was literally the force of the blow.
Yeah.
Was like...
I totally believe that's something. If you hit at the right time,
yeah,
you can disrupt the rhythm. Or if he had like an arrhythmia, an underlying kind of thing beforehand,
that's true too.
I totally believe. Yeah, I'm 100% behind this right now. That can happen.
Yeah, it's true that it happened. There were people who were there. I mean, she's the nurse, right? So she's the one who can probably tell.
Yeah, she's gonna know a lot better than us.
Anyways, so yeah, his heart had completely stopped, and at this point, people who think that he's just kind of passed out are like, oh my Jesus Lord Christ.
Amen.
all the exclamation marks. So she starts CPR right away, and she's using her training and basically at one point determines that he needs a forceful kickstart because the CPR isn't going to be enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a medical term for what she does, this kickstart thing. But this is something that gets misunderstood a lot of the times in media, I just want to say. Okay. So there's the regular CPR where you're just doing your 30 compressions.
Yeah, 30 compressions, 2 breaths.
And stuff. So there's that one. And then there's another technique that's completely different that's actually just giving a very powerful blow to the chest.
I can see
Does
it.
that make sense?
Because the idea behind like normal CPR is you're basically... Because I always forget that... we are both CPR trained.
Yeah.
We've both done the courses in the first aid for our occupations. But I always forget the song you're supposed to sing, but I know that like the beat that goes with it...
It's staying alive.
It's staying alive. It's like... It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Right, so you do that. And that kind of makes sense because you're trying to mimic what is a kind of an appropriate resting heart rate for a human.
Yeah.
Which I want to say is like 60 to 70 or 60
no
to
idea.
80. But yeah, I could totally believe that, hey, this was like someone just shut the off switch on the heart.
And you have to press the on switch.
Yeah, we need to like pound it back on. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, since the problem is that the heart was turned off, and the problem isn't the whole not breathing thing.
Yeah.
It requires a different kind of CPR than if you're trying to like save someone from drowning, you know?
Yeah.
So basically what this second technique is that you like make a fist with your hand and you just slam it down on someone's chest. And it looks really bad. That's why when people...
you're just beating the shit.
And that's why when people see it... I'm not kidding. People see this in movies and they're like, that's not CPR.
I'm just picturing...
And it's like, no, guys, it is.
Like someone grabbing one fist, wrapping the other hand around that fist like a hammer fist.
Oh, God.
And just pounding down on someone's chest.
It's
like probably just the one fist.
Don't... I think it is one fist.
The
I
way
haven't
it
been
sounds
in
in my head and the way I'm picturing it is just... Bam!
So, I want to clarify. We are trained in the basic CPR.
Yeah.
And I am just saying what I know about the second technique, which I believe is you just have one hand in a fist and you make a really hard blow. But I don't at all want people to, be like, oh, I heard this on a podcast and now I'm an expert and go and try it or anything.
No, realistically...
But I just want to let you guys know there's these two different kinds.
Yeah, they don't teach us... So, like, breaking the wall just a little bit. Like, we're up in the north.
The snowy north.
The snowy north, the great north. And when we did our training, we had to do basic CPR, emergency first aid, and it's kind of like a general first aid. It's like an 8-hour course. Have to get it renewed every 2 years.
Yeah.
We never learned that kind of CPR,
No.
and I'm assuming it's because it's relatively uncommon.
Yes.
Like, it's not very often that you'll ever use CPR, but coming across that type of situation...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this CPR is only performed when there has been some sort of trauma to the chest and it's forced the heart to stop beating.
Yeah.
And has nothing to do with breathing problems or your airwaves or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's why this is a completely separate thing. But anyways, we have to get back to the story. Sorry, guys, for that segue. So she does this second technique, and she does 2 powerful blows to the chest.
Okay.
And I want you to remember the number 2 because that is important for later. 2 blows.
2 blows.
Yes. She restarts his heart this way.
Okay, good on her.
So, yay! Very lucky that this nurse was here when she wasn't supposed to be. And this all sounds like, a bit of a kind of crazy story to tell the grandkids already, right?
Yeah.
Here's where things get interesting. Are you ready for this?
Interesting.
I'm gonna blow your mind. I'm really gonna blow your mind.
Okay, my mind is prepped to be blown.
So this is the kind of story that's gonna make you believe in karma or fate or anything like that. So years later, it's now 2006. Kevin is 17 years old, and he's working at a restaurant in Depew, New York. I butchered that probably. Anyways, still in New York, but completely different area.
Yeah.
Or town or whatever. He's in the back of the restaurant washing dishes when shouting erupts from the dining room area where all the customers are. And the employees and restaurant manager all called out to him to help a customer who was choking.
Okay. And it's the lady, I'm assuming, or her.
Can you just wait?
I'm drawing conclusions on information.
Yes, but just wait.
Waiting. Don't hurt me.
Okay, so this is another thing that Kevin said when he was reflecting back on this experience. Quote, "They knew I was a volunteer firefighter and they called me over and I did the Heimlich," unquote. So this is why people automatically called him, because they knew about his experience.
This kid is 17 and he's a volunteer firefighter?
I know, right?
God, I wasted my youth.
No, you didn't. You got interested in other stuff, but I still think, good for him.
That is very good for him.
Anyway, so he does the Heimlich, which most people kind of know how to do from
Yeah.
when you're choking. And after 2 thrusts of the Heimlich, same that she gave, the food comes out. Kevin's just, at this point he's just responding, so he hasn't really looked at her yet, but he helps the woman to recover, and when they actually look face to face, they're like, oh my god.
Dun dun dun!
Twist of fate. The first twist of fate that happened 6 years ago has happened again to the exact same 2 people.
So it was the nurse.
It was the nurse. Coincidentally, if that's what you want to believe this is, instead of fate, if you want to believe it's coincidence, you do you. The woman Kevin had saved was Penny, the same nurse who saved his life at the baseball game.
Interesting.
What?
That's pretty neat. Like, I'm a math guy. Like, if you told me this happened in, like, a small town, I'd be like, But, depending on... Because you said this was a place in New York, and depending on where the initial accident happened, like, again, if this is a small town of, like, 5,000 people, I'm gonna be like, it's really rare. Mm-hmm. I could kind of get... If you're telling me this was, like, New York... As in, like, I don't know what they have, like 10 million people. I'd be like, that's.
So, yeah, I want to reiterate.
Bonker bananas.
I don't know how far away the first and second places are. So we have Lancaster and Depew.
The fact that they're both, 2 different places, though, also kind of lends.
Both in New York, but I don't know how far away, like, how far apart they are in terms of these 2 cities or neighborhoods or whatever they are. Because I'm not familiar with New York. I don't know any of this. But point being... That makes it even crazier is the fact that this is happening in a different location and it's not just 2 people who are part of a small town who meet up 6 years later.
No, that's pretty nuts.
It's pretty nuts, and it gets weirder. So we already established that both people had to use 2 thrusts to help the other person.
Yes.
So that's the first coincidence. I'll get into some other coincidences in a minute here. But moving on from right after they see each other face to face and they're like, oh my goodness. Kevin's exact words when he's telling this story are quote unquote, it's almost unbelievable. Which is what I would say.
You could say that it's almost
inconceivable.
Please don't leave the podcast.
We should do that once an episode, just say it that way. Penny said, quote, the fact that 2 individuals were able to help each other out in a pretty dire situation, it's pretty extraordinary. Unquote. Yeah. So anyways, what's something that I guess I just forgot to write in these notes, but that I remember as I'm reading this, is that Kevin also was not supposed to be at work that day. He just happened to be at work.
Just got called in.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So pretty much the exact same as Penny, who was supposed to be at work and was not supposed to be at the baseball game, but was given time off last minute.
Interesting.
So the coincidences continue, guys. Anyways, moving on to the conclusion. So when they realize this crazy coincidence, like, you can't not keep in touch with that person, right?
Well, at that point, I'm assuming that...
It's like fate brought you together.
Yeah, it'd be like, hey, we need to...
Or good karma, or something.
Yeah.
Some kind of divine intervention. I don't know what you guys believe in, but it's something, you know?
At the very least, I'd stay in... Even if I didn't believe it was fate or anything like that, I'd stay in touch with the person just so we could freak people out by telling that story. That's
an amazing story. I wish I had a story like that to tell.
Right?
So
like,
badly.
You're walking down the street. He's like 19. She's... If she was there watching the game, I'm assuming she had a kid who was playing.
Yes.
So she's probably like late 30s, early 40s.
No idea.
Thereabouts. You're walking down the street together, someone's like, hey, how did you 2 meet? And you're like, well, sit down there, Grandpa. We have a story for you.
We have got a tale for you.
Finishing each other's sentences, restoring each other's hearts. It's a beautiful
It's a beautiful relationship.
It's a beautiful relationship.
Beautiful friendship. Anyways, so they obviously keep in touch, because how could you not? And they meet up again after this event that happened. And they meet up at the Bowmansville, New York Fire Hall. And that's the place where Kevin was a junior firefighter.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's still 17, so his parents go with him to greet Penny. And they present her with a bouquet of flowers, which is very sweet.
It's very sweet.
And yeah, like I said, it's cool that they stay in touch and become friends. Because, yeah, there's the age difference. But, like, I maintain, I would have been like, fate brought us together. That's what I would believe.
When something
personally.
like that happens, yeah, you roll with it.
Yeah. So anyways, the really nice parts at the end of some of the articles I read were that the American Red Cross in Buffalo now uses this story as an example of how important and beneficial and life-saving it is to learn basic CPR skills. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So, minor segue here. We were talking about this last night before bed. We were talking about, I can't remember how the discussion started, but we were saying, like, what little changes would you make to society as a whole?
Oh, yeah.
Like, nothing major.
Yeah, we were.
And I think my answer was, I would get everybody, and it'd be like on a 2-year, 5-year rotation, whatever. You'd have to do it in high school as well.
Yeah.
Every single person has to learn basic first aid.
Yeah.
And you always have 10% of the population who is trained in CPR.
Yeah.
The idea being that not everyone needs to know CPR. It's rarer in terms of how often you might need it in your everyday life. But everyone should have a basic understanding of human anatomy and first aid. Because when you think of all the situations that could help with.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Like, not even just lives saved, but like, you know, random encounters, right? That can help people out.
Yeah.
That was my little thing that I'm like, we should add that to society because I think that it would make us better overall.
For sure.
You know?
And especially if you wind up somewhere where it takes a long time to get help in terms of a ambulance or whatnot.
Yeah.
In all of the training that I have done for the CPR and first aid stuff, the thing that they always tell me, whoever is teaching, because I've obviously had multiple teachers over the years.
Yeah.
And the thing they always say is that if you have somebody at the scene who can give basic first aid and CPR while waiting for paramedics to arrive, that can be the difference between them surviving or not.
And we're by no means saying, like, this replaces doctors or nurses. No, this is like, you see someone with, like, I'm going to use a stab wound, for example, walking down the street. But you and everyone around you understands how to properly put pressure on the wound, how you might, like, depending on where the wound is, if there's, like, cuts on the arm, how to make a tourniquet to kind of keep something immobilized if it's broken, how to, you know, do all that stuff, right? Like, that would be, I think, beneficial. Anyways, back to the thing. We just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and you know what, to be fair, this is going to be a shorter episode, so the segues are just kind of filling it out.
Segues abound.
Yeah. The American Red Cross in Buffalo uses that story, which is pretty cool. And as well as that, the Red Cross and Kevin's Boy Scouts group both presented an award to him after this event.
I would
really
hope
awesome.
so. Like, hey, you saved somebody's life. It's not an everyday occurrence. Good on you, champ.
Yeah, I hope Penny and Kevin feel good about themselves knowing that they made that significant of a difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
Because not everyone can say that, you know?
Well, especially, like, she was a nurse, right? So I'm sure she's had those
she
moments in her
helped a lot of
life where she's helped. But for the average Joe, like, somebody who's not medically trained to do that, there's, like, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
You know, like, to know that you can make that big of a difference. Right? It's not going to happen often. Like, hopefully it doesn't have to happen often.
No, but even the little things. Even the little things.
Little things.
Like, even a stranger on the street who sees that you're upset and, like, picks a flower and hands it to you. That can be a huge difference.
I read a story.
Yeah.
I'm going to segue again. Like, there's multiple segues.
We've got time. I'm done my story.
We're, like, riding those machines. Segway's a machine, right? That's what the two-wheeling... They can, like, Paul Blurt Mall Cop.
Oh,
Blart.
You're totally right.
It's
that is what it's called.
Anyways, I was reading a story about that. There was this kid, and I can't remember what happened to him because of it, but he got something, and it was like a 16-year-old kid. He was walking down the street, and somebody was standing on a bridge, looking like they're about to jump. So this 16-year-old kid just walks up to him and says, like, "Are you okay?" And so they just start talking and whatever, and then, like, 4 months later, the guy's talking with the kid about how his fiance is now pregnant. It's like this 16-year-old kid saved this guy's life.
That's amazing.
By kind of like showing like, yeah, you're having a bad day, right? Or you can be having a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad year.
Yeah.
But that doesn't define the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I read that story and I thought that was cool.
One act of kindness can change it. I read another story, new segue. I cannot for the life of me remember what city, country, where in the world this was.
Continent,
but
county.
There was a bridge that was basically known as like the suicide bridge because so many people committed suicide off of that bridge. And I guess a young girl, I don't remember how old, but I think she was like less than 20. And she went to that bridge with these laminated little handwritten notes with very positive messages.
That's
and stuff.
Cute.
Like, you're an amazing person, those kind of things. Every day it gets better. Messages like that.
That's very cute.
And she, I guess she must have like used wire or something and twist-tied them all over the bridge. All of these notes. I don't know how many. Dozens at least. And I think the city, whatever city this was, actually presented her with this like hero award or something because she had actually reduced the numbers, the statistics of people who were committing suicide. Which is crazy.
It's the stories like
Such
that.
Such a small thing.
That warms your heart.
Makes a huge difference.
Small things matter. Little things matter.
This episode is brought to you by Random Acts of Kindness and being a hero. The everyday hero.
Trademark.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well that's it for my story.
That's a good story. I did. It's one of those like I totally believe this happened. Mm-hmm. Right? Like,
yeah, like this
is documented. It's completely conceivable, and I'm like I like math when it comes to statistics. I think a lot of people like underestimate, but it's like, yeah, this can happen. I've heard of other coincidences that are similar to this. Right? Like crazy things happening. Like I know there's a story somewhere of like somebody shot a man and then 20 years later that man's brother saved the shooter's life. Or right? Like
cool.
Things happen. But this was one that was happy. No one died in this story.
Yeah. It's a very positive
that
story.
made me happy.
I'm glad it made you happy. I hope it made our listeners happy, even though I chose it. I knew it would be a shorter episode because it's a very straightforward. It's a straightforward and shorter tale. But I had to, start off this interest that I want to continue talking about on the podcast about coincidences, like you said, and this idea that maybe karma is a thing or maybe fate is a thing. Because it seems like divine intervention at a certain point,
I believe in karma. That way I know that the lady who cuts me off when I'm trying to find a parking space, she's gonna, like, get something bad.
Oh my God.
And that gets me through the day.
Excellent.
With that positive message.
All right, yeah, with that very positive final message.
Just remember, if someone's ever mean to you, they're gonna get it.
Okay.
Just leave it up to karma.
Okay. On that note, guys, we'll see you next time for episode 8. A bit less down to earth and a bit more intriguing, in my opinion, in terms of whether this is conceivable or not. And I'm excited to present this case to you.
I'll be the judge of the conceivability of the story.
Alrighty then.
That's my job.
We will see you guys next time.
Have a good one. Bye.